So this is on getting through the holiday season. It is meant to be a little bit of an overview generic because there's so many different concerns and stressors in the holidays. So I didn't necessarily go into a lot of specifics. But if you guys have specific questions, do let me know. This is going to be an overview. First off, I always do want to remind everyone about what we do here at Blomquist Hale. So we are here to help you with any life challenge. It does not have to be a mental health issue. So if you really just need someone to talk to because the holidays are stressful, if you need advice on budgeting, if you need some help on how do I tell my mother-in-law that we're going to this house, or how do I explain to Uncle Earl that I can't take any politics, we're happy to help with those. It is free. It's covered by your employer. It is 100% confidential. I don't share with your employer what we talk about. They don't even know if you're coming in or not. We do not share any of that information with anybody. It is all confidential. We do have counseling available by phone or video. So if you can't come in, or if you want to see a counselor maybe in an office that's not in your local area, we can arrange that by phone or video. We use Zoom for that. We do have a 24-hour crisis line. So if you do need to call and get some help, some advice, and it's after our hours, it will be a licensed counselor that will answer the phone. It will not just be someone in a phone center somewhere far away. It will be one of our local counselors. And we do have appointments available most days. So before we get started into the holidays, let's just get this out now. Yes, this sucks. It stinks. It's stressful. Everyone's plans, traditions, they're getting messed with right now. It's been a horrible year, and yes, we do not want more. And yeah, I wish it was over. We all do. And if you want to scream, by all means. It's been a rough year. And I wish there was a way for me to fix that. There isn't. I am going to give you guys some tools and tips, but I do recognize everyone's coming from a rough place this year. All right. One of the big stressors of the holidays, uncomfortable conversation. This tends to include politics, religion, discussion of significant others, current or past hurts, past fights, parenting. These are some of the most common ones, but there's a lot of uncomfortable topics. So the best cures, clear boundaries, rules about conversation topics. Sometimes having a special table or room or time for such topics. And that could be, instead of a kid's table, this is the politics table. Y'all want to sit there and talk about politics? You sit over there. Or maybe the rule is we don't have any discussion of politics. Maybe we don't have any discussion of religion. Depends on what works best for your family. But boundaries are a good place to start, and we are going to go into more detail on boundaries. It's ineffective if you not follow the rules of good boundaries. So we are going to go a little more in detail on that, but if you're going to be insulting, or if you're going to not stick to the boundary, or let so-and-so slide, not this person, the boundary is not going to work. Changing the topic firmly but politely. Same way you would at work if you had a coworker going into a topic that you do not like. You're going to be firm and polite. That, nope, we're going to talk about this. Changing the topic, using humor. Teamwork. So if you have someone that feels the same way you do at a holiday event, whether it's dinner with your family, a party, doesn't matter what it is, sometimes just having someone else that's working with you on that makes it more bearable. So if you both agree with you and your spouse, let's say, that we're going to avoid any discussion of, a very common one is, when are you going to have kids? It's a stressful one for a lot of us at the holidays. If you're working together, you have a game plan. Getting through those conversations is a little easier. Reframing techniques, we're going to go on how to use those. So reframing techniques. So reframing is looking at it in a different way or changing the dynamics of something. So bingo game and tallies is one of my favorites. It's a little juvenile, but I like it. If you're going to, say, a family party, dinner event, and maybe you know that Uncle Earl is going to go on a rant about the state of the government. Man, that can be stressful. But let's say that maybe you keep in your phone or on a piece of paper a tally mark of every time Uncle Earl does that. And if you get up to 10 tally marks, then you deserve ice cream after that. Maybe you're going to do it with a family member. Maybe you and your spouse, you and your kids, you're going to see how many tally marks can we get on how many times someone brings up the state of the government. You could also make it more of a bingo game. How many times are we going to notice, or who can notice, if Aunt Ethel brings up my weight, or what she thinks about the state of things in the government, what she thinks about religion? Some of those uncomfortable topics are popular ones for this game. But it could be anything. It could be, how often is Aunt Beatrice gonna pinch my cheek even though I'm an adult? I'm a little old for that. So those are just a fun way to not necessarily fix what other people do, since we can't control that, but to give yourself some control, make it a game. Now, how the game is won, that's really up to you and your family. What the penalty is for the losers or the winner, up to your family. Mine, it's, whoever loses has to buy the ice cream when we go to Dairy Queen afterwards. But whatever works for you. Reframing, is it a disaster or a plot twist? If you watch any holiday movie, you'll discover that disasters are part of the plot. The truth is, even in the best, most organized family, disasters are part of the holidays. Someone's going to forget to put the turkey in the oven. Someone's going to have a plumbing issue at a really, really bad time. Someone's gonna mislabel a gift. Someone's gonna make a faux pas. But if you see it as holiday ruining, that's how it's gonna feel. If you see it as plot twist, if you see it as a moment straight out of A Christmas Story, or pick your favorite holiday story, it becomes a little more bearable. If it was someone else or in another social situation. So it's a way of looking at it without taking the emotion in. Because when it's family, when it's a significant other, when it's really close friends, there's just a different emotional weight to it. So would you react this way? Would it be unreasonable to react this way if it was at work? If it was with a neighbor? It's a way to really think about the situation differently. Sometimes we're harsher on family than we should be, or friends. Sometimes we let them get away with stuff that we wouldn't let anyone else get away with. There is some truth to, when we're at some of these kind of holiday things, a lot of us will fall into old roles. If competing with your sibling is what you always do, odds are you're probably going to do it again. So how would you look at it if it was someplace else? Take that emotional weight out of it to help you make decisions, to not feel guilty about making decisions for yourself. What advice would you give about this if it was someone else? If someone was asking you advice, would you say, well, just suck it up, it's family? Or would you say, well, I think you need to do this. I think maybe you should skip that event. Maybe you need to put a boundary or have a talk with your mom. It's a way to help you make a solid decision. Family, friends, loved ones, they're complicated. And so it's not always easy to make the right decision for ourselves or our loved ones. Sometimes you need to take a step back so you can really be honest with yourself and not let all those other voices, all those people who would be giving you advice or telling you, oh, don't do that. That's not kind. It's the holidays. Listen to your own voice. And these are techniques to help you get good at that. Shorter visit, event, more quality, less quantity. If you know that that party is going to be too stressful, okay. What's the minimum you can do? Do you maybe need to be gone after half an hour? Do you maybe need to do an individual visit with Aunt Marge, but not be at the whole family event? This gives you a feeling of control. It also lessens the stress. The holidays are stressful enough. Don't add. So if there's something that you can adjust to make this more bearable and less stressful, I say go for it. Humor. Quite honestly, that's how I survived the holidays. A lot of humor. Some of it a little dark, I'll admit. Comes with being a therapist. But it's how I get through. Taking the emotional weight, we talked a little bit about that. Again, really thinking about what would I do if this wasn't Aunt Marge, if this wasn't Mom. That's a good way to check yourself and go, Am I making the right decision? Finding silver linings. I know that's not always easy when things are so hard, but sometimes those silver linings really help us get through. Things like, well, at least I don't have to worry about the visitors from back east because they can't travel this time of year because of 2020. It's a silver lining. Find those. At least I can wear a mask during business meetings. At least I can do this. It's small, but it helps, especially with a touch of humor. Unhealthy relationships. Relationships that can cause harm and or distress to you and or your loved ones. It can impact other relationships. It can set expectations or poor example. For example, if you're going to a family party or dinner and your kids are seeing that maybe you're having this unhealthy relationship, a lot of kids will imitate that themselves in their own relationships. I have a lot of people who will tell me things like, well, it's my mom, so I allow this. This is my dad. This is my stepdad. I allow this. But should your kids allow that in their own relationships? It's one thing to say, I care about you, I value you, you should value yourself. It's another thing to show them how to value themselves. We get this strange idea that being loving means sacrificing. That's not necessarily what love is. It's not mean putting up. Unhealthy relationships also don't have to be relationships with people. They can be with work, ideal self, school. If you're off of work and you're thinking about work, well, dear, you're working for free. And I don't care what job it is, no matter how wonderful, no matter how important, one should not work for free. If you have this idea of who I should be, and you're really focused on that instead of who you are, that's an unhealthy relationship. Same with school. Loving someone does not mean you owe them. Now, if you think of our own families, raising children, being a grandparent, all these things, when we do something for someone we care about, when we raise a child, when we provide a roof over their heads and safety, when we bring, apples to great grandma, we're not doing it with an expectation of, well, I did this, this, and this for you, so you owe me this amount. That's not love, that's a business transaction. But as people, a lot of the times will say, but because they did this for me, I feel I got to do this for them. I got to put up with this. It's just one day a year, or it's just this one thing they need. But you don't owe that. Love is not owing. Owing is for business relationships. And I'm not saying that you need to cut someone off if you really feel you don't, but being very careful of not feeling forced, trapped. Quite frankly, that'll make a relationship even worse. No one gets to tell you not to spend time so you want to during the holidays. If you really feel that even though a relationship maybe isn't the healthiest, that is something you have to do, no one gets to tell you otherwise. However, if you don't like it, it is up to you to set the boundaries and change it. It doesn't mean the same as someone else is saying it. So boundaries. And there is a lovely YouTube video on toxic relationships that's really good for boundaries on our YouTube page. There's also one on difficult conversations. I recommend both of those if you really want to go nitty gritty into deep on some of these, but kind of an overview. Boundaries need to come directly from you when possible. I even include this often with kids, especially in divorce situations. If mom is saying, Uncle Earl, knock this off, it bothers my daughter, it's one thing, but he might go, oh, she's not that bothered. It's not that big a deal. But it can be more impactful even from a kid. Now, there are some situations where an adult needs to talk to the adult. There are some situations where maybe you're so uncomfortable as an adult telling another adult that what you're doing is upsetting me. Maybe you need someone to step in. But it is more powerful, more meaningful coming from you than someone else. It needs to be clear. It needs to state what your limits, expectations are, and consequences. So it's not saying, Aunt Beatrice, please stop bringing up when am I going to have kids. It's saying, Aunt Beatrice, please stop bringing up when am I going to have kids. It upsets me. It makes me uncomfortable. I need you to stop. If you're not going to stop, I'm not going to sit with you. I'm not going to talk with you. I'm going to leave this party, whatever it might be. Clear, direct, because otherwise, you're probably not going to get the result you're looking for. It needs to be realistic. And that's going to depend a little bit on your family. Really know what they can and can't do. For example, I often have teens that have very unrealistic expectations for family events. Well, I want no one to talk to me. Well, that probably isn't going to happen. But be realistic about what is doable, what's not. Avoid drawn-out discussion, debate, rehashing old hurts, and insults. When you're setting a boundary, it's a clear, direct, this is what I need. If it becomes a debate of me trying to explain why, they're not going to necessarily be hearing what I'm asking. They're going to be coming up with counter arguments. It's not effective. It's probably just going to end up hurting everybody. Rehashing old hurts, insults, honestly, it's not going to get your point across. Even if it's tempting, even if it's maybe deserved, it's not going to help you set a boundary. They will need to be maintained and adjusted over time. So just saying once, Aunt Beatrice, stop it, is not enough. If she does it again, you need to be direct of, hey, remember we talked about. It might be following through with your consequence. And you might adjust things over time depending on family, relationship, stressors. But a boundary is not a one-time thing. It has to be maintained for it to be effective. And we talked a little bit earlier, reframing to change the emotional weight. So if you're going, well, but this is so-and-so, this is my best friend, this is my family, I let them do this, even though it upsets me. But would you advise someone else to do the same thing? If it wasn't this person, would you allow it? Really keep that in mind to hold yourself accountable. The holidays and divorce, not my favorite topic. So we know from research, kids want to remember having a good time, feeling comfortable and loved. A lot of kids of divorce, unfortunately, will tell us that they just remember the nasty fights about who got who, nasty comments about the other parent or extended family. And we can't control what other people do, but we do control what we do. And so doing what you can to keep that pleasant. It's really heartbreaking when I hear a kid tell me how much they hate Christmas. They hate the holidays because they know it's going to be ugly. It just breaks my heart every time. We as adults have to be responsible. Examine your traditions, especially during the first couple of years. Are there traditions that you don't like? Sometimes starting a new tradition is a way to have it be fresh and different at your house versus the other parent's house. And really look at also adjusting. A lot of people talk about, well, but I have them this year at Christmas and this year at Thanksgiving, but I really wish they were here. Okay, but what are other ways to celebrate? Do you want to maybe have a second Thanksgiving celebration on another day when you do have them? Do you maybe want to adjust and work on, we get Christmas Eve, you get Christmas? Being flexible. Because again, it's not about the date. It's not about all the details. It's about, I feel loved, safe, and I'm having a good time with my family. That's what it's about. Not the nitty-gritty details. Your kids are not tallying what people are doing. Involve children, new significant others, and other family in decisions about how to celebrate. Now, not every kid wants to participate that. We don't always have a new significant other yet. But sometimes we just go forward doing new things and don't even ask what people want. Doing it together makes it more meaningful. It makes it a shared event, a shared memory, a shared tradition, which is what tradition should be. Resist the urge to speak poorly of other family members, especially in front of children. It causes a feeling of I have to take sides, I have to keep the adult happy. Do not recommend. Again, I know sometimes it really feels like I gotta say it or they deserve it. I tell you, it doesn't help. Fill the time and resist the urge to wallow. So especially that first couple years, a lot of the time we're adjusting to not having all that time scheduled out and filled. If you don't fill it with something, you're gonna feel like there's a bunch missing. I have no problem with people feeling sad. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel angry. It's not okay to be mean. And if you wallow for too long, that becomes the habit. And misery is not a great habit to have. Changing traditions. Traditions can become routines without meaning. Now, not every tradition, of course, but some people just keep doing the same tradition without thinking of why. Why is this valuable to me? Why do we keep doing this? Really look at, especially when there's changes like there is this year, is this a tradition we want to carry? Does this still have meaning to us? Can it be adapted? Do I like it at all? Does it fit for our family and our family's values? Most people struggle with change, even if it's good. So sometimes, even though everyone agrees, we don't like cranberry sauce. My family does, but some families don't, yet they keep serving it. People might still go, well, where's the cranberry sauce? It's odd, but people still struggle with change, even when it's something they want. Expect that. But having that ownership and meaning in a tradition is what makes it valuable. Is it even realistic? Some of the traditions that we hold dear just can't happen this year. And I know it's awful. But if it's not realistic, it's not realistic. You're not going to sit there in an hour mulling it over in your head or over the weeks and come up with a way for it to all of a sudden be realistic. Doing that is going to wear you down, make you feel frustrated, trapped, probably ultimately depressed. Don't engage in that battle. If it's not realistic, it's not realistic. That's not going to change. So figure out what is doable. Would you improve the tradition? Some traditions can be improved. What are some ways to make it fit for kids that are older? What are some ways to celebrate a tradition, even if your children have grown up and moved out? Grief and loss. Not just the loss of loved ones, but loss of our feelings of security, holiday plans, traditions, family time, connection. It's been heartbreaking for so many people that are not seeing people they want to see, that maybe lost someone this year, maybe that wonderful tradition of being able to take a family photo or sit down together and open presents, maybe that's not there this year. And it's okay to mourn that. Loss is supposed to hurt. It's not a matter of will to make it not hurt. And this is something I hear a lot. I should be over this. People have it worse. Well, if that could fix it, it'd already be fixed. It's gonna hurt. It's supposed to hurt. Even as a counselor, I can't make something that's supposed to hurt not hurt. Give yourself some space for that hurt. Some of my clients right now, we're even scheduling a daily time where they get to cry, be upset, and not be kind of on stage for everyone else, whether they work with, their families, so they can just feel, even if it's just 10, 15 minutes. If you need that, give yourself that. It's okay not to be happy. Add meaningful rituals to remember loved ones who are not able to be with us. And this does vary a bit from family and what's appropriate. But finding those things help us feel like we can remember the good stuff. A lot of times when we lose somebody, sometimes for years even, all we can remember and think about is that loss, the death, the pain. But taking that time to remember the good stuff, the good memories, the habits, those are so important. And it's also part of that recovery of having that time period, I don't know when, where it's easier to remember the good stuff. That means spending some time on the good stuff. Be flexible. If there's a tradition that needs to be adapted or that's too upsetting to participate in, okay, adapt. The more you try to control something you cannot fix, the more frustrated you're going to feel. If you try to make a tradition work that's not going to work, you're going to feel like you're failing. But that'd be like failing to make the sun not rise. You can't control what you can't control. If you do not feel like celebrating or being happy, don't force it, don't fake it. Do not cross that line of being mean and several other words that I won't use since this is being recorded, but don't be mean. There's a difference between being angry, hurt, and being mean. Y'all know the difference. Don't cross that line. You're not required to be happy. So self-care, fill your bucket. Some of you guys might have heard the fill your bucket before. Make time for you rather than write yourself an IOU for after the holidays. This is something I hear a lot. After the holidays, I'll make time for myself. After the holidays, I will see a counselor. After the holidays, I will get to rest and it won't be so stressful. An IOU doesn't really work. You might need that now, just so you can even get through the holidays. Make the time. And one of the things people tell me is, I can't make time. Well, sometimes your schedule's nuts. But look at what you can do. Can you give yourself 10 minutes here? Can you actually make your lunch break be a lunch break? Can you stay up a little later, get up a little earlier? Make time. Unfortunately, no one can do it for you. If something's too stressful for you during the holidays, is it something you can change? Is there that tradition that's just too much for you? Is being in charge of the family Christmas party just not feasible this year? If you can change it, you can take it off your plate. Why not? Basic self-care. Sleep, eat, health, hygiene, safety. They're so basic, but if you're having a problem with any of these, handling anything else becomes almost impossible. Take care of those basics. Do not neglect them just because it's this time of year. Do extra for yourself. This year is hard, so you might need more fuel or more in your bucket to work with. So you might need to do nicer things for yourself. You might need to sleep in or go to bed earlier. You might need to not use your lunch break to do paperwork. You just might need that extra this year. Doesn't mean you're weak. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means you're being smart. Do for others. It feels good. It helps the world not feel as bleak. We talked about grief a little bit earlier. Do something in memory of someone you've lost. Donate to a charity that really mattered to them. Take your family to some place that was special to them. Limit social media and time spent in the news. It is part of self-care. And yes, the news is important and social media it can be wonderful. It can be awful. But a lot of us spend way too much time on there. And social media and the news are meant to get views, to get people to watch and read it. So sometimes it uses particularly upsetting negative language on purpose. And so spending too much time there can make you feel negative too. If you need to block somebody or snooze them on social media, go for it. If you need to really monitor how long you're on social media, probably use a watch or a clock, because social media deliberately does not show you the time for a reason. It's the Vegas effect. If I can't see the clock, I don't know how long I've been here. Mental health. Holidays do not always have happy memories, and they can be more of a stressor than a pleasant time for many people. Sad but true. Maintaining coping skills, support systems, counseling, medical care, it's so important. It's more important during stress. Again, it becomes this IOU of, well, after the holidays are over, I'll get in. Well, I'm just too busy right now to see my counselor. No, you need it more than ever. If you're too busy, bad spot. I hear it a lot. I do not want to bring anyone down. But if you expect your loved ones to reach out to you when they need you, it's pretty unfair of you to assume that they don't feel the same about you. Likewise, why should they come to you with their problems if you don't trust them with yours? Really challenge that thought. This is a time about being there for each other. Mental health struggles do not disappear by force of will. It's not a matter of just buck up and get through it. You can't compare yourself to others to feel better. People try though. Well, there's so many people that have it worse than me, or, well, at least I don't have this. That doesn't fix it. That doesn't make something that hurts not hurt. Masking happiness, so fake a smile and I'll feel happy. That doesn't work. Use of substances doesn't fix it either. It masks it, but it'll be there later. And it might even have consequences later. So locus of control is a term we use in counseling to talk about what's in our control and what's out of our control. If we try to control things that are out of our control, it increases our stress. It makes us feel like we're failing. It makes us feel like we're somehow letting someone down. So I always challenge my clients, look at what you can control. So this is just a short list. You control what you say and do, what measures you take to stay safe from COVID, what value you place on tradition, rituals, and relationships, your values, belief, and character, how you spend your time and energy, the good you do for others, how you celebrate the holidays, how you adapt when things do not go to plan, things outside your control, what others say and do, COVID and CDC recommendations, how others perceive your actions and words, others' values, beliefs, and even their character, how others spend their time and energy, the good others do for you, and how others celebrate. Really challenge yourself on what is in your control. Finances. Now, I wish, I really do, that I had all the money in the world to just fix people's financial stressors. But here's some tips that I can start with. Be realistic about what is doable. Make a holiday budget and sticking to it. Spending too much now is not worth the cost later. Do not recommend racking up debt and just going, well, it's just the holidays. We don't know the future. It might not be worth it. Ask about what gifts are wanted, needed, rather than buying without being mindful. This is a quirky thing. In my experience, it tends to be aunts and uncles that do this, but maybe your family's different, where they buy something because they think you're gonna want it, but it's not something you'd ever want or want anything to do with. Being more mindful can mean that you're spending less money. It can also mean that maybe it's actually a more impactful gift, even if it's a cheap gift. Sentimental and meaningful gift over pricey gifts. Even if it's something handmade, that has so much value. You know your family better than I and what's gonna work, what's not gonna work. But that is one way to kind of watch it when the finances are tight. Experiential gifts or future gifts. So experiential gifts, if you don't know, are gifts that are experiences like movie tickets, passes to the zoo. Sometimes those are better gifts and more doable financially than a bunch of other gifts that might be more expensive or not as meaningful. Future gifts are more of those kind of gifts that we're going to go to the movies in January. We're going to go on a trip. Or we're going to have Christmas in July and we're going to go all out then. Whatever feels appropriate for your family. Seeking help when needed. Sometimes you just can't stretch the dollar any further. Now, what's right for you? I don't know. Not without knowing your situation. But if you need to put something on layaway, if you need to ask for someone for financial help to make it work, it's not going to get better on its own. Be honest with your loved ones if you can. Children are really more understanding than you think. They really do have a good idea when we say it's just not possible. Now, I will add the proviso that is usually children over the age of 6. Though I am sometimes surprised by children under the age of 6. Sometimes being honest and setting the expectation is a way to avoid the stress. So just talking about expectations versus reality with the holidays. Everyone will get along for the holidays and put upset feelings aside. If I plan everything out and worry about enough, everything will go smooth. Something going wrong would just ruin the entire holiday. Unfortunately, not even the holidays can make someone do something they do not want to do. You can do everything perfect, absolutely perfect, all planned out, and things can still go wrong through no fault of your own. That's the reality. So why make it more stressful by trying to plan every detail? If you decide the whole holiday is ruined, you miss out on memories, you may even cause upset for others. I've never met a family yet that didn't have at least one good holiday story of how Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Hanukkah, Eid went screwy. This is something that just happens. My family, it often involves plumbing. I don't know why. It just does. But families have this. When you fight it, it can become more stressful. If you accept that this is just part of the holidays and it's not in your control, sometimes you can make amazing memories. Sometimes it becomes a new tradition. Special diets for eating disorders. Communicate with your host or family in advance. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to upset. But honestly, if you were the host, you would want to know. It's really not fair to keep that to yourself and then be miserable. If you're going to bring your own dish, cool. Sometimes that takes a lot of stress off the host. But do understand, no one's a mind reader. If you bring your own dish and you're not being clear why, your host might wonder, do they not like my cooking? Do they think I'm unclean in this house? I know it feels silly, but honest. Say why. It's less offensive that way too. The holidays will not change your health needs. So if you're diabetic right now, I'm sorry to say, no Christmas magic will make you not diabetic. If you really cannot handle milk or bread, the holidays are not going to make that disappear. It's a quirky thing, but some of us will decide that it doesn't count. Holiday calories, holiday foods don't count. They do. Let someone know if you're struggling with an eating disorder so they can help you stay accountable. I'm not saying stand up in front of the table and make an announcement. But if you're worried that maybe you're going to binge, purge, or not eat things, it's a little harder to do if there's someone looking out for you that's going to say, hey, you go to the bathroom? Hey, did you want some more potatoes? It helps. It also helps you not feel alone. Work with a counselor for the holidays or for extra support if it's a triggering time, particularly for eating disorders. It's a hard thing. And if you could fix it on your own, it would already be fixed. Sometimes you need some extra help. You cannot control other people's reaction to your request, but you control what you say about it and how you say it. Do not cross that line of being mean. Alcohol and drugs. This is not for everybody, but some people this might be an issue. Be honest with yourself about what you can handle and the consequences. It's so easy to go, well, I can handle just one glass. No one will notice, it's just weed. But it can get out of hand so quick. So really being honest with yourself with no one else. Be honest with others if you need support. So for example, if you know that Grandpa Bob always likes to have a drink and that you're going to want to have a drink with him, assume that Bob's going to be the same as he was last year, unless you say otherwise. You might need to say, hey, I'm going to have a drink with you, but I can only have one. Or, hey, I can't have a drink. Another thing I see a lot is people that have jobs where they're not allowed to do drugs, but it's family, we're together, and I won't get a random. Inevitably, they seem to always get a random the minute they get back to work. And then they get a failed drug test, and then they get in trouble, and it really hurts. Avoid negative self-talk and those who are pushing you out of your comfort zone. So people will say, well, I'm not being fun. I'm a downer on the party. Or people are saying, oh, come on, you can just have one. It's not that big a deal. I won't let you have a second one. If you know it's a no, you should stick to a no. You might need to leave if someone's really pushing you and you're hesitating. Seek support to manage stress and your mental well-being. Drugs and alcohol are more tempting if you're stressed. If you find yourself justifying or talking yourself into something that you said you were not going to do, probably shouldn't do that. I know it's obvious, and yet I end up saying it a lot. So this is just a quote from Viktor Frankl. Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but by lack of meaning and purpose. Now, I recognize, and we've talked already about how much all this going on has really been rotten. And part of the reason it is rotten is there's no good reason for all this suffering. I can come up with reasons, but none of them are good. None of them are good enough to justify this. But let it be the same for your holidays. Look on meaning and purpose for what you do, not so much the details of the how. And I know all of us at Blomquist Hale, regardless of what holiday you're celebrating and what time of year you're watching this, especially for some of those that are going to be watching this in recording, we do want to wish all of you a happy holidays. We do hope that they are as enjoyable and minimize the stress as much as possible. Now, I do have some time for questions. Feel free. I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen just so that I can read these, just to respect everyone's privacy. But if you do want to unmute and ask a question, feel free. Or if you want to message me or Heather privately.
Doesn't look like we have any questions.
I just see kind of one. Okay. So not going home to the holidays due to COVID or not visiting family for COVID. This has been something we've been seeing a lot. There's been even some people saying, well, we're still having a celebration. What's wrong with you? I've actually had, I think, 3 or 4 clients already this week that they're telling me just how awful they feel not going. One of the things we got to kind of look at is what is in our control. I know we talked about that a little already. I can't control what other people say to me. I can't control if maybe this is going to be the only time Aunt Margaret can come out for years, maybe even her last, maybe because she's elderly or ill. But I honestly, when I think about it, I have some relatives that I'm skipping this year. And you guys all don't know this, but I actually lost my grandmother earlier this year. And so I have one grandfather still in town. And there's been a lot of discussion about whether to visit him or not. And it just breaks my heart because I'm working hard. I'm very proud of what I do. But if I was in any way the cause of his death, it would just tear me apart way more than losing him otherwise. And that is why I ultimately justified not visiting him this year. I wish I could tell you just some magic way to make that guilt not be there. If I had it, I would give it to y'all in a heartbeat. But you can't change how someone else thinks. And it's not your job to. If someone's trying to guilt you about not coming to an event, know that that's manipulation and you don't have to play that way. If there's other ways for you to be close to people you're missing, I highly recommend finding them. But yeah, some people are going to be upset, especially if they're doing something that they probably shouldn't be doing. And that's what I'm seeing a lot too. Families that are saying, well, it's just made up. It's not that big a deal. Yeah, but if you have to say that to me, you probably know you're doing something you shouldn't do. That's something that's justifying, like I was talking about earlier with substances. If you have to justify, talk yourself into it, you probably shouldn't be doing it. Do the best you can. This is not going to last forever. I know it feels like it. But make other opportunities to see your loved ones and really think about what you can do. If you have a way to spend time with people, even if it's not maybe family, it kind of sucks to spend the holidays alone. If you want to volunteer, if you want to do a Friendsgiving, if you want to do participation by Zoom, I know some families that are doing that. Find the ways to celebrate that keep you and your loved ones safe. And don't feel guilty for caring about others.